Hi everyone, and welcome to the Fake Love and Flying Monkeys podcast. My name's Nova Gibson and I am your host. My area of expertise is in supporting victims and survivors of narcissistic abuse and other toxic relationships. I'm the principal counsellor at Brighter Outlook Narcissistic Abuse Counselling Service, and I'm also the author of Fake Love, Understanding and Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about everything from the initial pink cloud you find yourself on at the start through to the horrific discard and the powerful trauma bond that keeps you hooked. So take your imaginary seat on the roller coaster that is narcissistic abuse, and don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode of Fake Love and Flying Monkeys. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fake Love and Flying Monkeys. Today's episode is about the guilt that a victim carries when they leave their spouse or they leave the relationship they're in for a narcissist. This is more common than you think, and the reason I wanted to do this episode was after speaking to a beautiful lady, one of my clients in my practice yesterday. I told her, by the way, I was going to talk about this because it is just so prevalent. Of course, I'm not going to mention any names, but it's almost like the guilt is compounded when you get manipulated or duped or conned into leaving a relationship, whether that relationship is one that it was happy at some stage and it was just going, I guess, like some relationships do when you've been together a long time and you forget to put the time in and you kind of take each other for granted and you really need to just shake things up to get things back on track. Or it was another abusive relationship that they were leaving and it seemed like this was their way out. Their God was looking down on them and had brought their prince or princess into their life so they could get away from that toxic relationship. Whatever the situation is, these victims seem to feel even more stupid. Of course, that's victim blaming, but victims are conditioned to blame themselves. And when you get duped into leaving a relationship that you're in, which is good or bad, it tends to make the victim even more responsible for the abuse. It's almost like it's a punishment. See, this is your karma for cheating on your partner. So in this particular case, this lady's relationship was not good. It was not an abusive relationship, but she described it as being, toxic at certain times. But she wouldn't describe her ex-husband now as being narcissistic or abusive, but it was certainly not a happy relationship for a long time. Anyway, in comes the narcissist. And what is a narcissist going to do? They are going to look at someone who's in a vulnerable situation, someone who is crying out for affection, for some kind of attention, who's been deprived of that, if not abused for so long, and they are going to be your knight or princess in shining armor. I don't think that actually fits if you're talking about a princess, but anyway, you get what I mean. And they healed the wounds that existed, and they brought light into the lives of these people who had not experience that kind of attention, and it just felt so amazing. They thought, this is my gift from God. This is my reward for having put up with everything I have put up with in the past. And finally, something good is coming into my life, and I am not going to throw this away and potentially miss out on having a relationship with the love of my life. So let's look at both of those scenarios. Let's look at the fact that a victim was in a relationship and that relationship was toxic. It was abusive. Remembering it's not uncommon, if not very common, for victims to go from one abuser to the next, not because there's anything wrong with them, but because of many factors, such as previous trauma in their lives, the fact that perhaps a primary caregiver, a parent, has conditioned them to believe that they have to please everyone else, and that toxic love, in other words, conditional love and love and control being the same thing. They've conditioned them as to what a healthy relationship looks like, or what someone who loves you is going to look like, and how that relationship looks for you. So victims will find themselves, unless they get the right support, in one toxic, abusive relationship after the other. So let's say that you were in a toxic, abusive relationship. You've never dreamed of cheating, even though you're pretty sure that your abuser had cheated on you many times. Of course, narcissists project, so they probably accused you of doing what they were doing, but it always confused you when they did accuse you, because you wouldn't dare do that, or you were just not that type of person, unlike them. So here you are in a loveless relationship, and this person comes along and they tell you, you look handsome, or you look beautiful. They listen to every word you say. You haven't had your partner or husband or wife listen to you in years. In fact, every time you open your mouth, they basically tell you to shut up. And here this person is listening to you, and then they may just grab your hand, and oh my goodness, the touch, that sensation of having someone touch you with love and gentleness, that makes you feel amazing. And it's been something that you've probably been craving for such a long time, and maybe not even knowing that it was something that was really a missing factor in your life until you had something to compare it to. So let's say it's a narcissist at work. Here you are, just going through the motions, and this person strikes up a conversation with you, and one thing leads to another. Maybe it all starts off quite innocently, but with the empathic listening, in other words, gathering data, assessing their prey, they have found out that you are extremely vulnerable. You will give them the information they need, and they will weaponize that information. They will be the yin to your yang. They will fill that void that is inside you because you've been neglected, emotionally, psychologically abused, perhaps physically abused. They will listen very carefully and they will make you feel amazing. So you have most probably been accused of cheating in the abusive relationship you were in prior. And it feels terrible to even think of doing this yourself. You don't want to be a hypocrite. You don't want to be the narcissist, but you can't resist. This person is just appearing to be a gift from God, your soulmate. And with one thing after the other, you end up leaving the relationship you're in. Is that cheating? I get asked that. Actually, I get told that by my clients who have so much guilt and they think that they're like the narcissist. My clients kind of confess to me that, Nova, I'm, guilty of doing what they did to me. I cheated. And then we have a really, really in-depth discussion and reflection. And we find out eventually that this person has been trauma bonded to their abuser, or they are trauma bonded. They have been in a situation where they couldn't leave, or that they didn't want to leave because they were so dependent on their abuser, if not because of financial abuse, maybe children, or just the trauma bond makes it incredibly difficult for victims to leave. So they feel so much guilt when they confess to engaging in the very behavior that hurt them so much when their abuser did it. So if that's you, I want you to listen to this. As I tell my gorgeous clients, it is very, very different. Okay. Others mightn't understand this, and that's because they haven't walked in your shoes. And here's why. The difference is in the motivation of the behavior and in the trauma of the victim compared to the need of gratification and indulgence of the abuser. There is such different motivation and intent behind the behavior. So if that's you and you have those massive feelings of confusion, guilt, maybe you're like them, you're not, okay? And here's my theory on this. When you are in an abusive relationship with a narcissist and you can't leave, whether it's because you're trauma bonded with all of those other factors impacting on your relationship or not, when you leave because someone else has come along, that's not cheating to me. That's escaping, okay? It's always escaping when you get away from the abuser. This was just the stimuli, if you will, that got you out of that abusive relationship. Okay, now let's look at the other scenario. I think this one tends to produce more guilt, if that's possible. And that's because their partner, their husband, their wife didn't abuse them. Things were just boring. They were together for such a long time and they were just not feeling validated, respected in the relationship. There was no communication, no intimacy. Basically, they had just stopped working on the relationship, which is a huge mistake. And everyone just got taken for granted. And as a result, both people in the relationship, I'm just going to say it's the woman, although men obviously can be victims too, but just for ease of context, the woman, the victim, who of the next narcissist, not of the previous relationship, they were feeling empty. They were not feeling loved, and for whatever reason, they didn't work on the relationship, and the narcissist came along at just the right time. But their massive guilt lay in the fact that there was no abuse, and that they felt like they had just, given away something that potentially they could have worked on. And of course they felt like they hurt their ex-partner so much in leaving them for another person. And this just compounded the shame and guilt when they were duped and abused by the narcissist. Okay, so let's just look at that scenario a little closer. Things have gotten stale in the relationship, and both parties have been going their separate ways. They've been kind of like ships in the night. The intimacy's gone, but they still feel like they love each other, but that love's taken for granted, and both parties are kind of just going through the motions and are not realizing that, that relationships need work, and sometimes they do go off track. That doesn't mean there's abuse taking place, but regardless, this happens when we have busy lives, when we've got children, when we're trying to run businesses, so many things, mortgages, so much stress in our lives these days, and it all gets in the way of our relationship, which really should be the number one thing. Anyway, very, very common. I'm going to call it, just to give you some kind of frame of reference, even though it can be a man as well. I'm going to call it the bored housewife syndrome, where they're just, feel like they've been taken for granted, going through the motions. But this can be a man. A man can be the victim of the narcissist too. Please know that. And here they are, they're not feeling loved or respected by their partner. And who pops along? The narcissist. But of course, they don't know this, but they are so vulnerable. They don't even know they're vulnerable. But the narcissist will pick up on this. The narcissist will do the same thing in this situation as the previous one I mentioned. And they will pick up on, by asking the right questions and listening to what you say, listening to the tone of your voice and your body language, they will pick up on the fact that maybe you haven't been intimate with your partner for a long, long time, that you are feeling not valued or respected in the relationship, and they're picking up on the fact that you would be a prime target because you are so vulnerable in that you are crying out for attention that you're just not getting at the moment. So the narcissist dazzles you. They make you feel like $1 million. You're walking on a cloud. You've got your own personal pink cloud 9, and you go home to the boring old, in inverted commas, boring old, same old relationship. And the comparison, it's like night and day. So what happens? You've got that lightning, those fireworks going off at work. You feel like you are just euphoric with the dopamine on overflow, and then you go home and you crash. So you've got this contrast which makes your relationship that you were in, that was like many are, when we're just going through the motions and we've got busy lives and we're not giving our partner the time that we really should be. And you've got that in contrast to this person who just appears to set your world on fire, so you can't resist. And of course, don't forget that the narcissist, in their very, very covert, manipulative ways, will be subtly, or maybe not so subtly, saying to you that, oh, you deserve so much better. How could they not give you the attention you deserve? I can't believe they're just letting you go. They must be crazy. They're making you feel like you deserve more than what you were getting in that relationship, and they're the one who's going to give it to you. They're implying or saying it right, that you're being deprived, you're not being treated very well. Oh my goodness, you deserve so much more. And here they are treating you like a prince or a princess. So you leave your husband, your wife, your partner, and you take up with the narcissist. Sometimes you will move straight in with them, and it's amazing, perhaps just for a little while, until it's not, because the narcissist is now bored. You present it as a wonderful challenge. How powerful do they feel to be able to get you to leave your spouse? It was worth all the extra work they had to put in to get you to do that. But now you've left, and it's kind of boring. It doesn't matter to them what you gave up and how you put your whole history with this person and potential future and maybe the relationships with your friends and your children. It doesn't matter how much you gave up to be with them, because now it's boring. When a narcissist takes up the challenge of manipulating someone into leaving their long-term partner or spouse, it becomes, I guess, more of a challenge, which makes the eventual payoff more exhilarating for them. But the outcome is still the same. Once that challenge stops and they've no longer got the joy and the fun that presented to them, they get bored, and victims notice the complete about face of their potential soulmate very, very quickly, as soon as they've left. And then what happens? They feel terrible. They feel shame. They feel guilt, because everyone was right. Perhaps you've been told by your friends, by the partner who you've hurt in doing this, who's telling you that they're so hurt. Perhaps everyone has told you that you're crazy leaving this person who loves you, that you've got a history with, for this new person, but you did it anyway, and here you are. They have just turned out to be the nightmare of your life, and they are putting you through hell. Now, if this is you, I want you to do the same thing that I would say to someone who was escaping a relationship with another abuser after they'd been hooked into the next abusive relationship. And here's why. Because the narcissist is manipulative. They target people who are vulnerable and they brainwash you, essentially. They, like a cult leader, they make you believe that the people who love you are no good for you. Not only are they no good for you, but the narcissist, the cult leader, is the only person for you. And they manipulate you into thinking that the last person you were with is not doing the right thing by you. And of course, they're mesmerizing you, brainwashing you, and they make it impossible to refuse. This is no different to the tactics a cult leader engages in when they have the ability to make teenagers or adults leave their families and stay with the cult and their family. They use exactly the same strategies, and they target people who are vulnerable. So if that's you, then the first thing you need to do is to give that guilt and shame away to the universe, because this was not your fault. You were susceptible, you were vulnerable, and the narcissist targeted. They honed in like an eagle or a hawk on the tiny little chink in your armor, and they took advantage of you. If you are in either of these scenarios, guys, then please give that guilt and shame away. It is not yours to carry. It belongs to your abuser. But the healing is on you. Please get lots of support with a trauma-informed therapist, someone who specializes in narcissistic abuse recovery, like myself. I Zoom counsel people all over the world. If you'd like to have an appointment with me, it doesn't matter where you are. Please get lots of support. If you still want to try again, if you are one of those people who left a potentially healthy relationship that you feel now you would like to put that work in, and your loved one is willing to forgive you for everything that's happened, and you can work through that together, then if they love you, they'll be there for you. You can only try, but beating yourself up is what the narcissist wants. Whether you are being dragged out of a relationship you're in or not, the narcissist wants to leave you in a world of hurt. They never want you to recover. So you'll only be rewarding them if you don't heal. So this was not something you deserved, and it was not something you caused. You were manipulated, hoodwinked. You had a predator who used you to fulfill their own selfish needs. So yes, please get lots of support. Talk to your loved ones. The people who love you will be there for us. Don't be embarrassed, okay? If someone makes you feel bad consistently, in other words, they're not having any empathy for you, there's no respect for your trauma and any attempt to understand what happened to you, then they're not the ones that you want in your life anyway. So yes, please get lots of support, guys. This is common, and it was not your fault. It was 100% the fault of the narcissist who found someone who was in a position of being vulnerable, and they did what narcissists do. They used and abused you. And that brings us to the end of another Fake Love and Flying Monkeys episode. I know that's an episode that's not really for everyone, or potentially it's for many other people who may be thinking about cheating and getting that affection with someone else. Maybe that's the place you're in and it will resonate with you. Because if you're in an abusive, toxic relationship, number one, you don't cheat with someone. You escape. But always be careful that the next person could be even worse than your previous abuser. And if this person is asking you to leave a relationship where you're not being abused, then think very carefully about what they're doing. And as I always say, go slow. Give them time to show you their red flags. And on that note, it's bye from me for now. Don't forget to get your copy of my best-selling book, Fake Love, Understanding and Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. And please, guys, if you would like to support the channel, which I would just love, it's really quite time-consuming to do these podcasts. So anything you can do helps. Every little bit goes a long way. So the best thing you can do is to give it a rating and a review. It helps it with the algorithm. And of course, share it with your friends, tag it, show it off in your support groups or just wherever you can. And leave a review. And don't forget to follow me on my other social media platforms. Until the next episode, remember, you are worthy of so much love, and you are worthy, certainly, of more than a lifetime of fake love and flying monkeys.